David,
I'm Korina.
and this is Three Chords. We started this really because we felt that there's a lot of people like us who are curious about relationships.
It's always, Three Chords is always going to be centered around one book. And the goal of that is just we are not marriage experts. We just want to be in a place of learning more, how to be better partners, how to communicate better. So we just want to take ourselves completely off that pedestal right now. And at the beginning of we've been married 2 years. So we don't have all the advice, we don't have all the expertise. We can only say what's worked for David and I. And that is what this is stemmed around and focused around, is just learning, truly. So we can get started on our book recommendation.
Yes, so today's book is Single, Married. Oh, sorry, that's not the name of the book. Today's book is Single, Dating, Engaged, Married by Ben Stuart. And a little background on Ben. He is a pastor at some church that I'm going to pull up in a second here. Yes, so Ben is a senior pastor at Passion City Church in Washington, D.C. He's been pastoring for over 11 years, and that's something that is important to Korina and I because at the forefront of Three Chords, we didn't even tell you where that came from, but it's going to be one chord being myself, one chord being Korina, and the chord that brings us together being God. So in his book, Single, Dating, Engaged, Married, Ben kind of outlines each individual chapter, and that's where we're going to kind of go over some of the insights and takeaways that we had, and go into some questions. There's some good insights in it. It's one of those books that really makes you think. So buckle up. It's got some good information in there.
Agreed. Okay, you want to get started on the single and singleness?
Yeah. Okay.
I think the biggest thing about the book that I took away from Ben Stewart's book was each season, single, dating, engaged, married, it's really not just you're just hanging out or a waiting room or you're not doing anything with it. There's no intention. Every single season has a job. It has an assignment. And that is what I took away from whatever season you're in, what is the assignment you're called to do by God, and having faith in what you do. So starting with singleness, what was the job and the assignment of singleness?
Yeah. So for me, and when we think about single, I think there's a couple of ways that you can think of single. There's the literal definition of, are you married? If you're not married, you're single from that standpoint. And then there's single, I'm not dating anyone. I'm not seriously engaged or anything like that. So there's kind of two singles here. But to answer your question, for me, singleness was really about focusing on myself. So reading books like this, but it was also working out. It was when I was single, I was taking a break from dating, actually. I was making sure that any relationship that I had with the opposite sex was strictly platonic, and I was focusing on getting ready for business school. So that whole year before I met Korina, I was going on friendly hangouts with females, groups of friends, but I was really focusing on, okay, how do I level up myself and prepare myself for my career? So that was what singleness looked like for me. What about yourself?
Same thing. It was intimacy time, with God. It was knowing when you're dating, and we met each other in our 30s. So we had all our 20s to hang out, have fun, play. So we knew at a certain point, you just know what you don't want. You've been through it. You've read that book. You sang that song. You're over it. But then it got to a point where I knew specifically what I wanted, and I wrote those things down. I'm really big on like being specific, being in the weeds of in the details. I feel like God's in the details. So I was in the details of how I want to feel when my husband comes home, what I want us to be doing on the weekend, what music I wanted him to listen to. So that was besides like spending great time with God and knowing myself, again, like you said, healthy habits, working out. I knew in my partnership I wanted to go to church, so I was going to church by myself. So there were things I was trying to become, that person, not just search and look for who I wanted. I was really trying to become that person by myself. And a big thing with singleness is I always remember someone saying, like, would you date you? And I was at a point where I don't know if I would have been dating myself because there were things I had to work on. So that is what that intentional time was for.
And I want to just take a note here and just say singleness is not a deficiency. And this is something that Stuart said multiple times is don't think that something is wrong with you because you're single. This is an important time to build up yourself. A lot of times you may hear, oh, there's my better half. No, you want to be whole and two wholes coming together, not half people. So,
or you complete me.
oh,
like,
David
does not complete
God
me. I am complete and
has
whole.
already completed us, but we are better together. So, that was one thing that he did anchor it with a scripture in 1 Corinthians 7:32. The unmarried person can be concerned with the things of the Lord, living in undivided devotion. So you don't have to ask anybody before you go make a travel plan. You don't have to consider anybody before you make a major business or career move. And that's the time to do that. And, I can say growing up in the South, a lot of us got married early and things like that. So you kind of get that pressure from maybe parents, grandparents, friends, like, when is it going to happen? So that was just one myth that this book really, really goes in and just like, hey, don't feel away, don't feel pressure, don't feel like there's a deficiency or something wrong with you. This is an important time for you to develop yourself.
Agreed. I agree with all of that. And then as you're thinking about like, okay, I'm ready, I've done the work, I read the books, I'm in a healthy state, that is when you start thinking about, okay, I do want to start to share this life with someone. And that is what you got to think about with dating. It shouldn't be trying to fill a gap, more so dating from an already full life. Like I already had great friends, I had great family, I had great hobbies, a great career. I just wanted to experience all of that fullness with someone. I wanted my quality of life that was already so high to just continue to elevate. So I think that's how going from singleness and bridging that gap into dating is something everyone should think about, is how to continue to date from an already full life.
Absolutely. And, when you're thinking about dating, it's like, okay, dating for clarity versus chemistry, because there's sometimes an overemphasis on the chemistry side. And hey, let's be honest, like there has to be some chemistry there. There has to be certain things of every single thing that we cared about. It was just water and oil, it would have been problematic. However, you're not going to find an identical twin, and if you do, probably what's the point of having someone else that's bringing a different perspective? Like you want someone that thinks differently because that's how you get better. So one thing that Stuart framed dating as a evaluation period. So you're not automatically like, hey, I see this person out there and already making up your mind that, okay, I see them, I'm marrying them. It's more so, okay, I see some. I've frequently said, we're learning more about each other.
You used to call them isms.
We're getting to know each other. What are we doing? We're getting to know each other better, and that is what this evaluation period is. So, with that, when we think about evaluation on your side, We have a couple questions here, but one of our questions was,
Mm.
does attraction deepen into genuine adoration or stay surface?
Does attraction deepen into during the evaluation?
Correct.
I mean, it's supposed to. You don't want it to stay surface. That would be strange, especially if you're trying to work through and get to the marriage point. And if that is your goal and your outcome, yeah, you should not be stagnant in any ways. I'm still learning you. Like, the attraction has not stopped. Like, there's still things I see you do, and I'm like, oh, that's new. Like, I didn't know he could do that. And then it creates this sense of adoration. And I do know that's a big deal for even women. We want to be adored. We really do. So, yeah, evaluation period for me, a big thing is character and like paying attention. And I think that's part of Stuart's whole messaging is like character over chemistry. I was definitely paying attention to how you were treating our servers at a restaurant. I was paying attention to tipping, like how generous is he? I was paying attention to obviously how he treated and meshed with my family. That is like we're both so family oriented, especially with our siblings. I know your brother
Absolutely
was definitely evaluating me. That's the first family member I met. And that's a tough crowd. That's a very tough, and they're like my wonderful brother in love and sister in love, beautiful family. But yeah, they like know what they want for their brother, and so a big thing was also how people from your past saw you and were treating you. So I remember like we were dating when we went to Morehouse's homecoming, and I was really paying attention to when you saw an old friend. Were they like excited? You know, when you see people in a grocery store from your past and you're like hiding down the hall, like, oh my gosh, I do not want to see that person. That was not the case with you. Anyone that walked up to you was just like so excited to see you, dapping you up. And I just thought that was such a sense of like, so cool that you were so likable. And so that was a big thing for me. And I know people talk about chemistry and the fireworks and the sparks. We definitely had that. There's definitely times like we've talked about our first date and our first kiss, like unforgettable. It's where it all kicked off. But also there's just a safety that I was paying attention to, how I felt with my feelings and with you. And one of the main slogans you all should be paying attention to with dating in the evaluation period: fireplace over fireworks. I don't know where I saw it or heard it, but like when you're next to a fireplace, it's cozy, it's warm, it's safe, it's beautiful, toasty. All the like great adjectives of a fireplace is what I have felt in this relationship. Yes, there were moments of fireworks, sparks, chemistry, but like I'd rather have that safety and warmth than like fireworks only last, if we're keeping it honest, sometimes 10 seconds, 10 minutes, but a fire can last all night and keep you warm all night. And so that is what we should be like searching for.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. For me, it was definitely evaluation period, because for me, in my history, it was more so like, okay, I've had various women like the idea of me and like the idea of being married and just like, hey, it's time, and not necessarily care about the genuine longevity companionship piece. So for me, it was first like, okay, is there genuine chemistry? Can we have a conversation? Those type of things. And obviously there was a physical connection. I was just like, okay, she's a baddie, all right. But then it was something that I was very dead set in checking, is like, okay, how was her walk? How was, and I've said it plenty of times to her, but I was just like, I just want a woman that can get a prayer to for God on my behalf and who's funny. So I got both. But there were multiple just occasions and things where just like, hey, I know I'm coming from Texas to California. How do you feel about this issue? And
Yeah.
it was a real thing of like, hey, you know what? As beautiful and smart and intelligent as you are, but how do you feel about
Those are
this?
real topics.
Yeah, and going back to the scripture is 2 Corinthians 6:14. It says, "Don't be unequally yoked." The first non-negotiable evaluation for me was that it was like, okay, if we were to move forward, is this going to be a situation where I'm pulling her and dragging her to church, or dragging her? Both made the decision that we were going to be celibate during our dating phase, but if one person's feeling it and one person's not doing it, it's not going to work. So it was just things like that. Um, every other check box, like we met on Hinge, so there was already some filtering that had already happened by virtue of how we even met.
I will say that is the benefit of online dating.
Oh, for sure.
It's like the filters are a real thing.
Absolutely.
Like, it helps.
No.
Sift through.
1000%. So we got some of those early questions out, but I think for me the evaluation was just like, okay, is she really in it for me, or is she just like, okay, it's time, hang up the cleats, just ready to marry anyone? And two, is it a real walk with God, and is she going to pursue God on her own as I pursue God on our own, so that we can come together?
Huge. Which then, after the evaluation period, which clearly we both passed, high remarks, we get into the engaged. And the engaged is such an interesting period. Honestly, knowing what I know now, it was just so different. First of all, we didn't live together before we got married. We were really trying to do it God's way, do it the right way, and it wasn't out of like righteousness and honestly, it was out of like, we did the wrong thing. We did the wrong things in our 20s. We're trying to get better. We're trying to learn from our mistakes. So getting to the engaged part, which we'll tell our engagement story at a later time, it's a great one. You killed it. But it's really preparation, and it really isn't preparation for the wedding. It could feel like that. We planned our wedding, obviously, that full year. We were living apart. I will say personally, out of all the phases, engagement was probably one of the hardest for me, because it was exciting. It was exciting, but it was like everything is just even more magnified because you're not married yet. So any like conflict, disagreement, I was like, uh-oh, like, is this what it's supposed to feel like? Like, we're getting married. And it was about, it was about stuff of the wedding and that high stress like period of time. And those decisions had to be made. And you start to see like, oh, he really wants this, but I want that. It's like a real, before living together, the real true compromise. Like, I want these flowers and they cost this. Yeah. Like, what are we about to do about it? So the engagement, and I had just got a new job. And so I was tackling that. And we both have very demanding, high stress people jobs. So yeah, it was interesting, the engagement.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, Ben really breaks this down. He says it so well. It's preparation. Plan the marriage, not plan the wedding. Kind of just what Korina was saying. So for me, it was, let me do everything I need to do as a single man before we go ahead and get married. So it was, I'll be honest, getting my finances in order, working on my credit score, like looking at debt, and like having those tough conversations about finances, getting projects that were kind of in the back, collecting dust. Either we're going to shelf this or we're going to go for it. It was also graduating from business school. So when we got engaged, I was finishing up business school. I got engaged as I was finishing up in school, but then it was just finding my next gig, seeing if we're gonna stay in Los Angeles and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So all of this is just like, okay, literally preparation for our life, not just the wedding. So it was like, okay, one, how are my finances? Where are we going to live? How are we going to live? What is our quality of life? And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, getting us mentally, myself mentally prepared and unfollowing. So before that, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, but like I had a conversation around social media. I was like,
Yeah.
there's some folks or pictures I don't want to see anymore. And now that we locked in, and
Yeah.
even right before engaged, I'm old school, so I'm asking her father and her mother for their blessing. But it was also like if they said no, I was still gonna do it. So I was like, still very much so like I wanted to do all the things, and that included premarital. So,
Oh.
um, premarital counseling is something I'm very, very, very big on, and I encourage everyone to do it. And we decided to do premarital before getting engaged because we're just like, why would we tell everybody in the world that we're going to go ahead and do this big step and then find something in that counseling that's a deal breaker and then have to come back. So we wanted to just make sure that we did all of that work ahead of time and then move forward and get engaged. And I think it set us up so well for, yes, engagement had ups and downs, but it wasn't questions like, oh, how do you feel about kids? Well, we already knew
No.
about that. We
Yeah.
already knew, okay, we could still stay in Los Angeles or we could go to Dallas. So we had
Yeah.
already had those big conversations. So when we were getting engaged, it really was like, okay, how do we, dot that I, cross that T?
Yeah. Finishing touches on like any singleness. Yeah, because we, like you said, living on our own for so long, being in our 30s, like we just had well established like habits and things. It was like, this is the last hurrah.
Mm-hmm.
So get it out of your system.
Get it out your
Yeah.
system. And, we had bachelors and bachelorette parties
So
and things like
fun.
that. So we had a great time. And but once again, it was with the goal. And once again, Ben, it's not me, but I love the Lord. But one of his anchoring scriptures that Ben shared was Luke 14:28, and it was saying, "Count the cost before you build the tower." So it's just like the wisdom behind, like, before you set out to do anything, you're going to at least measure. You're going to at least see how much it's going to cost you before you build it, or you try to start building something and you realize, like, hey, I don't have enough money or
Check
time
your
or
resources.
resources to do it. So
Exactly.
that's what engagement is. It's just like, okay, we're going to get married. Hey, and I'll say something that was big on us. We were not about to go into debt over our wedding.
No.
So when we say, count the costs, like we said, okay, this is how much we have. And we asked both parents, like, hey, this is what we have. What can you all do? And then we scale back on some things. We're just like, okay, we got a little bit more money than we thought. But this is the start of your life. And you don't want to start behind the eight ball for
Negative.
appearances and things. Like, even for the ring, like, she has a nice ring. It's getting
It's at
it's
the
getting it's
jeweler.
getting refurbished right now. But even with that, I let her know, like, hey, stick with me. We're gonna upgrade you. So like, the ring you have now is not the end all be all best ring that I'm gonna get. Still respectable, nice, and you'll see it later on. But also, like, hey, we're starting out now. Like, this is not the time for us to go broke and spend all of our money so that we're house poor and we can't live and eat and have food in our refrigerator.
And can I just say, we had the most fun wedding. And I know my guests are out there, our guests are out there. Like, we just had the best time. And so it really isn't about dollars spent, it's about who's in the room and curating that love. And I'm so thankful. Not only were we on budget, I don't play about the finances. We stay, like, I'm really big on doing things debt free as much as possible. but it was just a beautiful day. Yeah, it was amazing.
In the post production, we're gonna throw the video in there.
Yeah,
so you guys see it.
that'd be
Yeah.
great. And now,
married.
Yeah, and we just celebrated our 2-year wedding anniversary, so it's just really cool to reminisce and reflect on these phases and seasons. But Stuart is really big on it's not a contract, it's a covenant, and making sure it's rooted in that. So Genesis 2:24, to become one flesh. And that is what you've been working towards. You haven't been working towards all these things to stay separate. And I will say at the beginning of marriage, that was difficult for us. We were both very used to, I probably struggled with it even more, like the I think this or I, and it's like, no, we need to discuss this. We need to decide. So the goal is obviously to keep that highest covenant, that highest promise. And that is a daily thing. That is a daily thing to build, like it says, that oneness. And it takes practice. It's it's not instant. Still working on it. It's just like with anything, self-control, discipline, all these things we try to live by. But oneness in your marriage is also the same thing, to be built. It says to be built, not felt. That's good.
And this is where, could be a little controversial, but we're gonna keep it 1,000 on this side. This is 3/4. We're gonna be 1,000% real. So this is also an area where oneness is, hey, okay, joining finances. So before we were married, we didn't share bank accounts. We didn't do any of that. We shared kind of where we are, let her know where my credit is and what is in the accounts, but she didn't have a debit card or a credit card
access
at that time.
Yeah.
We got married, then we did that. We got each other. Now, we have joint accounts, but we just added each other to the accounts. We also, had a discussion regarding the last name, and my wife is very proud of her family, very proud of her father, her mother, and, just shout out to the Bearfields. But that was a discussion topic of like, hey, now you're joining Team Palin. And I know that, there's people that struggle with that.
And especially the new, obviously modern, independent women, which modern, independent, very proud of all the success that I've had as a woman. At the same time, we do have traditional values, more to each their own, no judgment. But for me, what helped wanting to take your last name is the same pride I had in my last name and my family and my ancestors. I could feel it in your family. So it was going from strength to more strength. I didn't feel like I was losing anything. I only felt like I was gaining beautiful, just another faith-filled family. Absolutely. So I'm very proud to be a Palin.
And, in the Bible it says to leave your father's house. So for those that are just still struggling with it, how I shared with Korina and I'd share with you all is just usually your last name is coming from your father in most cases. So now at the marriage ceremony, there is a portion where the father gives the bride over to the husband. So that is essentially what's happening with the last name as well. It's just hey, your whole life, your father was the number one man in your life taking care of you. And now that's my role. And I take every responsibility for that. And it's nothing but respect. But that's kind of, once again, from a traditional standpoint, hey, the asterisks or keeping your name, there's all different ways. There's no one right way. But that was just kind of the way that we went through and how I kind of like to explain it. All right, so great book. We don't want to spoil it and go into every little piece, but for those that you have situationships, you have we're just talking, we're just texting, we're just sexting, whatever, it really is helpful to have solidified stages in what each looks like, and I'm somebody that's always encouraging guys to honor the season that you're in. Like, hey, if you're single right now or if you're dating, you don't need to do marriage stuff. Like, first date, probably don't want to buy them a car or something like that. Or uh, you're dating, she wasn't washing my drawers and stuff like that. So, if you kind of need help like that, because if you just look out on social media or whatever, you'll see people all over the place and mixed up. So, really great book by Ben Stuart, but you can count on more content like this if you want to subscribe, like, share, follow, all the things. And we're just really excited to just kind of share our curiosity. Because once, like Korina said, we're not experts. We are not experts. We'll bring you all some experts. We'll share with you what we've read from the experts. But we know that relationships matter. It was the best decision in my life outside of Christ, marrying Korina, and for those who want to find that spouse, we got some good information for you.
Yeah, so like we said, this is 3 chords. And again, where that comes from, it's biblical, it's how we live our marriage. And it basically is, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So what that means is just husband, wife, and God in the center of it. That cannot be quickly broken. And that is the foundation of 3 chords. And what we're trying to do here is just be stronger together and be better for each other. So thank you all.